più presenza, c'è come più capacità di essere qui, di essere
There's
in
more
sintonia,
presence.
tanti di voi,
There's
no?
almost a greater ability to be
Quello
here,
che
to
semplicemente
be more
cerchiamo di trasmettere
tuned.
senza neanche
Many of you,
insistere.
many of us know
E questo lo
we are
sento
more
come un
tuned
campo di
to that
presenza.
which we try to pass on
C'è più
without even
presenza,
insisting. I
quindi
feel there's a
qui,
field of
ma anche
presence.
a distanza, magari
There's more
questa
presence.
energia
There's being here,
faciliti
but
e
also being
un po',
far.
diciamo così,
There's
vi
energy
permette,
can
no, di
facilitate
dei
a
click
bit of inner
interiori.
clicks
E questo
for
per noi è
those
molto
being
più
a bit more
importante che come
spiritually
tanti di voi
mature. And this is far more important for us, as I often repeat, than teaching you or explaining to you something in detail of which you have no need.
E quindi anche, scusate,
I thank all of those following from far away. Last
La
time we
scorsa volta
spoke
abbiamo
about a
parlato di una
fundamental
cosa
thing.
fondamentale. Guardatevi,
Look at me,
ok?
put that
Che
slide.
veramente,
At least one of you shall look at me, otherwise I get
mi
lost.
tenga d'occhio, che se no io mi perdo.
Last
La
time
scorsa volta
we
abbiamo
started
iniziato a
reading
leggere queste
these
parole
very
molto
powerful
potenti
words, and
e
we
ci siamo
wondered
chiesti
if,
se nella nuova
in the new
coscienza
emerging
ci sia
consciousness,
un'accezione
the
di una parola un po'
old-fashioned
fuori moda,
word,
che è
sin,
peccato.
may
E ci
carry a
siamo
new
chiesti
meaning,
se il peccato
and
nella
we
nuova
wondered
coscienza non
if
possa
sin
voler dire
couldn't mean the
essere
tendency
propensi,
to be
avere una certa tendenza ad
unhappy,
essere infelici. E
and
abbiamo
if
anche, ci siamo anche
being
chiesti se
unhappy
questo
is a
sia un
sin,
peccato,
we
nel
wondered
senso che sia
if
qualcosa
it
che si
could
attacca
also
anche agli altri.
infect others.
E noi
And
giocosamente
playfully
abbiamo
we
detto
said
che è
it,
più
it is
contagioso di
even
un
more
virus, di un
contagious than a
coronavirus.
virus,
Ed è
than
talmente
a
contagioso
coronavirus, and
che
it is
tu
so
prendi
contagious that instead of infecting just someone,
prende
it
praticamente
infects everyone.
e il virus dell'infelicità, della paura,
Unhappiness virus, fear virus are so dense on the average conscious plane of people on the earth that it seems normal to go around and see faces. We saw that in a magnet they are called North and South Poles, but you can call them Mario and Genoveva as well as you like. As soon as I try to strengthen one pole of the magnet, I cannot but strengthen the other pole of the magnet as well. We wondered if this is not, in reality, a condition of our consciousness. We see this in every home-made experiment, no need for the latest technological physics lab. By trying to reinforce a side of my personality, my consciousness actually strengthens its opposite too. We saw how this is typical of a duality, of a consciousness living in duality. With all due respect to everything and everyone, we also started to sense that the words, in this case by light on the path, but also from the Buddha, from the Gospels, from the Bhagavad Gita, but our beloved Ramana Maharshi, and all of those teachings, do you recall? Please, let's go back to the light on the path. Last time we stopped at these words. There's even a cat looking from the window, if Ulysses sees it, but he's not watching. Anyhow, last time we stopped at the meaning of the word sin. Let's read it again. Seek in the heart, listen how beautiful, the source of evil, and expunge it. We also underlined how, in the beginning, light on the path uses a more understandable, common language. Given that people usually have the need of always fighting against someone, of being against something, as a consequence, light on the path takes us by hand, as Virgilio does with Dante, using a more suitable language for an infantile consciousness level. Later on, light on the path won't use words such as expunge, kill, etc., etc., as if at the beginning we still needed this. Anyhow, we already spoke about these things. Thanks to the technicians, thanks to Davide, who's new in the tribe. You can listen to it again, so I won't insist. It lives fruitfully in the heart of the devoted disciple, as well as in the heart of the man of desire. Only the strong can kill it out. I'd love to stop here. As we spoke about sin last time, a word destined to slowly disappear in the new consciousness.
In un senso di nuova coscienza, potremmo parlare anche di un senso di forza della nuova coscienza.
We could speak about strength from the new consciousness perspective. This text is much more powerful than it seems to those who start reading it, and it tells us that only the strong can kill it out. And we didn't speak about killing something, rather about a plant, a weed, a term also used in the Gospel, which we need to stop feeding instead of killing it. By stopping feeding it, as you'll remember, you'll find the exit, let's call it this way, from the big magnet, which wants us to take side with the good ones, because we think we are the good ones against the bad ones, while in fact we are reinforcing this whole collective illusion. We also saw something, dear friends, which no one can see in your place. Not even someone who loves you, or someone holding a microphone can see it in your place. Every initiate saw this mechanism, no matter the belonging tradition, be it spiritual, religious, lay. This mechanism was often given different names, and its name isn't important. What is important is the fact that no initiate stayed in the big magnet. Every authentic initiate silently went beyond this consciousness plane of global fear and unhappiness without going around saying, "Hey you, look at me, I'm an initiate."
Questo uscire da questo magnetone,
PG, the person speaking, is convinced that more and more people are experiencing the exit from the big magnet. People who don't want to look spiritual, people who are humble, simple, poor in spirit, as the Master of Master would say, people who are not full of spiritual techniques. Let's get back to the idea of strength. Try just to sense it, or try to understand it mentally. And remember that understanding mentally opens the door to intuition, being the two connected, yet not the same. So, the first thing I'll ask Jack is to put on a specific slide. I don't like slides, but they help sense and feel things. This is beautiful. The slide has a lot to do with Jack and his arms. A characteristic of this strength is that it doesn't strengthen the sense of self. When someone is physically strong, I'd say the one on the left, this strong person is more showy than others. He's stronger than others. When someone is intellectually strong, he's more intelligent than others, no matter in which way, from being able to grasp maths instantly, or physics, or the ability of explaining to others. Intellectuality has many wonderful aspects which we love, and thanks to it we can talk, thus we respect it. However, even this form of intellectual strength will make you showy. It will be straightforward how you're more intelligent than others. The strength of the new consciousness isn't making you showy, because it does not strengthen you. It won't make you physically or intellectually stronger, it rather makes you transparent and invisible. Others won't notice how you're more aware, enlightened. They won't even notice you have gone beyond the big magnet. If they noticed it in packs, this would mean you're still showing off, convincing others, transmitting things without having gone beyond, as many teachers do. We have nothing against strength. This type of strength belongs to the old consciousness, which we still hold for a couple of centuries, but it has been losing strength for some centuries.
La coscienza, nella nuova coscienza, la forza, vedrà persone che...
Strength in the new consciousness will see people getting stronger while getting less and less visible to the eyes of the world. Take a look at this image and the next one. Love is not based on being more and more strong, intelligent, but less and less identified with thoughts and what indeed meditation we call little selves. When love makes you great in the eyes of others, it's not real love. It's old consciousness. Love, said Father Ballister, to whom I will never be grateful enough, makes us like dolls made of salt swimming in the sea. The strongest is the one which dissolves away. Instead, in our old consciousness, the strongest is either the most muscular one, or the most capable in something, or the best one at something, perhaps the most intelligent, better in school, better in any subject you like, you name it. And I would like to ask you, to ask ourselves, can I vaguely sense this kind of force? You know, can I vaguely perceive a kind of force that makes me more transparent, less seen, more of an aware nobody, rather than the strongest above others? You know, the moment you start thinking about that force, in some way it begins to flourish in you, not through thought itself, but through the wisdom that sometimes manifests itself through thought. And today we will slowly see it better. So I ask you, can you simply get an idea, even if only a mental one, of the silent strength that doesn't make you stand out over others, that doesn't make you appear stronger in any sense over others? Because the mind says, okay, before there was the strongest, then there was the smartest, but now there is the one who's the most aware. No, because awareness is not about who's the most, it's about who's the least. Until you, and no one can give you this, until you see it with your eyes, with your sight, with your heart, with your sensitivity, and nobody can do this for you, no matter how much you're loved, you will always tend to form the idea of becoming a plus. Jesus says somewhere that the plus belongs to the devil. My goodness, but then the devil is also the most aware. I am more aware than before. I think that my journey, my inner click served to make me more aware than before. But no, when having the idea of becoming more aware, I actually stand in the way of awareness, which instead flourishes in those who are willing to be less, not more. And this is another way in which we can read those splendid, marvelous words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," which we talked about last time. We have some examples of videos, maybe some gladiators, but those, is it a video or a photo? Okay, a video. Please, Pepper, turn off the lights. Let's use the videos and the slides to make the inner clicks. Let's look at it with a light heart. Okay. We have two, right? One that goes in one direction and one in the other direction. It's coming out from the big magnet, you see.
Va bene.
Switch on the light, please. This little piece is enough, and otherwise we will all end up going around with a horse and a spear. Why did so many of us in the past, but never mind, I don't want to talk necessarily about past lives, although in other eras, in other civilizations, and often it was still us, why did so many of us fight such battles? We could come up with 1,000 reasons. As a matter of fact, there are various friends here who study history, and they surely would know these reasons much better than me. Yet, I would like to point out one fundamental concept. The idea that if I won, I would be better off than if I had lost, which was true in a sense. In that historical period, which lasted thousands of years, this was, relatively speaking, true. The winner would be at peace, maybe until the next battle, although that peace would still be impermanent. But I want to stress here that there was the fundamental idea in the best-case scenario, while not considering the sad ones connected only with economic interests, this idea that by overcoming the bad guy, we would have been at peace, we would have been happy, we would have lived a better time. This, for a certain level of consciousness, dear friends, is always true. But in the level of consciousness that we are approaching, this is no longer true. And the moment I'm against something, happiness flies away lightly and gently. Be careful though, one thing doesn't exclude the other. The fact that we had to fight battles for long periods of time, and that today we are still fighting, and that we still fight for a few more centuries, dear friends, at least in some areas of the world. This fact doesn't necessarily mean being against peace. It's simply for the level of peace which is considered basic and how we would perceive it at elementary school plane. But since so many souls are starting to graduate from elementary schools, it's time to see that this mechanism works well in some cases. I repeat, I'm not saying it's wrong, although in other cases it no longer works. If, at a certain level of consciousness, we begin to see clearly that these struggles don't bring happiness and good, there is an intellectual struggle too. In fact, a Lama friend of mine was telling me about a tradition that you see on the right hand of the screen, where even the Tibetans in certain schools have clashes which are much more peaceful than we saw in The Gladiator. They have verbal clashes based on who wins by verbal ability, who wins with intellectual wit, who is, even if this term seems out of place, more intelligent, meaning more capable at debating, something that was also dear to some philosophers in the Agora. This too had a value, and it will surprise you that traditionally, do we also have a video of this? That traditionally, a monk is standing and a monk is seated. Notice that this is often taught with a deeper meaning far beyond throwing bombs, arrows and spears. However, the idea of someone who wins is always implicit. A Course in Miracles says, do you prefer that you be right or at peace? This debate is simply based on wanting to be right and proving that I am right. We can see this in the monks, who often do it with a much nobler and higher intention. Careful, we just take this as an example, as I'm only interested in one thing, that more and more people simply observe it in themselves, without criticizing errors when there were more battles, or places on earth where there are battles as we speak, or people who still need to win a mental debate. Simply, I would like you to see that this is not the strength that Light on the Path reads about. It's a kind of, let's say, cold strength. The cold energy, as we discussed last time, is not a refined kind of force compared to the nuclear fusion one, but it's something that has to do with more subtle energies which we are on the verge of entering. Let's see this video clip. Switch off the lights, please.
possiamo vederlo 2 ore, l'importante è, diciamo, farsene un'idea.
We could watch it for hours, but it's more important, let's say, to get the idea.
Allora, ribadisco che i monaci tibetani spessissimo lo fanno con un affare giocoso.
Again, Tibetan monks often do this playfully, not in a stubborn way. Therefore, much different from old consciousness. By the way, some monks clap their hands like in the Chen-style Tai Chi which we practice. I want to show you that there is a reason why. Indeed, when I still need to win, when my consciousness is still at the point where I unconsciously identify being strong with winning, then I'd better win intellectual disputes rather than throw rocks at somebody else with a catapult. Therefore, this is a giant step ahead. It serves the purpose of taking us from an idea of the strength that destroys and kills many people to a slightly more refined force, which is anyway still centered on the I, the ego. I defeated you, let's say on a physical level, as it used to happen in the Colosseum, not far from here, a long time ago. I defeated you, I was right. Historically, one monk is standing and the other is sitting. This comes from the time when Sariputra challenged the Buddha. I've told the story before. However, the Buddha, instead of entering this dispute, simply asks Sariputra, "Where does your need to challenge me come from? Does it come from consciousness or from the ego?" It is said that Sariputra fell to his knees instead of answering. Then he became one of the greatest disciples of the Buddha and, in his turn, a Buddha too. Buddha will teach him the Heart Sutra. I've already talked about it, so I won't repeat. It seems, though, that in the first instance Sariputra stood up emphatically and spoke out loud against the Buddha, almost as if having a loud voice could be more compelling. Maybe this works to sell cookware. If you had a loud voice tone, you're persuasive. Maybe it works when selling goods as a P&L technique, but it's all about old consciousness.
E gli iniziati, rispettando questo, lo ripeto,
I say it again, an intellectual debate is also a form of strength, a better one anyway, as it refines the violent strength that kills bodies and destroys villages. Light on the Path, if we can see it, speaks about getting beyond even this kind of strength, not denying it, because it also has a reason why in the great plan of this wonderful planet and universe. There's matter, if you like, literature. We talk about Schopenhauer. Please, body, come here. You may know a book that, as a young boy many years ago, I loved reading so much. I also bought this book by Schopenhauer. Bodhidharma is about to name its title. The Art of Always Being Right. 38 Ways to Win an Argument. Schopenhauer was a great thinker and philosopher of the 19th century. A man of great culture, he spoke several languages, even ancient ones. He had a deep knowledge of science, mathematics, literature and philosophy, and he was a professor. It's a posthumous book, translated after his death. It's a book in which there is a truth, objective or subjective, that says, I can win an argument despite the truth, and oddly enough, I have 38 ways of doing so. It's weird and hilarious at the same time, but he was a man of great intelligence and culture. This book is about the gimmicks to win an argument.
Per avere ragione su un altro. Ne dico uno semplicissimo.
Just to name one, I make my opponent angry. I refute everything. I treat him badly so that he gets upset, loses his mind, and eventually I can be right. It's hilarious, isn't it? Yet it's regarded as a milestone of our modern literature and culture. So Pier Giorgio asked me to tell you about this simple thing. By the way, Schopenhauer had been fighting Hegel for his whole lifetime. Hegel was another great actor in our Western philosophy. He even put his lectures at the university in the same slots, days and times as Hegel. as he was trying to take students away from him. Oddly enough, Schopenhauer was recognized as a great thinker later than Hegel, who was already famous at that time. As a result, nobody wanted to attend his lectures, so he kept fighting, but did not always win. But that's not important. But it's weird because until the end, he had to fight against someone. In this case, it was Hegel. Thank you, Bote. After this digression into Eastern and Western literature and from various historical eras, I always go back to the point. Does it ring a bell to you?
Sì, vedi, ho ragione, e ecco che ci sono caduto. Vedi?
You see, I'm right, and I fell into the same trap again. People want to do so much, too much. Indeed, dear friends, I don't have to do anything else but simply unveil these dynamics inside me. I repeat it over and over, I deeply observe them rather than pretend you have seen them without really enlightening them with awareness. And I ask you, in your childhood, which is often a bit of a receptacle of summation of your past lives, the various childhood eras, as they say in esoterism, did you experience situations when you needed to be strong? And if so, in what sense? Physically, intellectually? Because by just seeing it, you might see that instead of having gone past these dynamics, they have only become more subtle. I know lots of people who are acquainted with techniques to be right, just like Schopenhauer, to have you convince others. Maybe it works when selling a product. But again, this won't take you out of the big magnet, but it will rather reinforce it. Paradoxically, Light on the Path talks about a kind of strength that only a few people start realizing. And it's weird, because those who are weaker, that is, they don't have this kind of strength, will reinforce global fear in the world. Suffering is shared with everyone through the net. Now we have one more slide to show.
Nella coscienza ordinaria, se state seguendo questo video,
If you are following this video by hearing the audio, just stop for a while and look at the slides because they can be helpful. Take your time and look at them, even if you are here. Sometimes I turn around and see someone looking up or somewhere else. Focus on them because pictures help you grasp things more than words. By the way, Jack does a super job with them, and I thank him. In ordinary consciousness, we experience all of this without realizing it. I have it all inside me, but I haven't noticed it. Just because I didn't punch anyone, I have not sworn at anyone or shouted my ideas out at someone with different ideas. They think that this is enough to get over it, but it's not. I have to see it, and that's why we lovingly bother you. It means that we are not ready to cross the fire of initiation. Indeed, if I have the idea of crossing, symbolically, the fire of initiation to be something more, you may remember Dante's Purgatorio. Initiation is already rejecting me. Like the sphinxes symbolically did in ancient Egypt, and even before in Mesopotamia. And like this, I'm already saying that I'm not ready to go beyond, using modern language, I'm not ready to go beyond the big magnet of fear and global suffering. Is there an idea in you that initiation, enlightenment and contact with God will make you become something more? This idea must be left behind. Indeed, everything that is authentically spiritual makes you less and less, not more. No matter what. Whatever idea you may have, you'll never be becoming something more. You will become less.
Spesso parlavo con una persona, spesso pensiamo questo, non mi ricordo.
We often think, if I become less materialistic, I will be more spiritual. I kid you not, people think so. And this still keeps us in the duality of spirit versus matter, and therefore keeps us stuck in the big magnet. Because reinforcing my idea of spirituality reinforces the other pole as well. Do you remember? So, again, is there in you any idea of this sort? An idea that by becoming less in this, I will become more in that? Very often there is one, but we don't see it, and this is like screaming at the universe, "Oh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. That fire would destroy me. I'm not ready to discover God beyond forms. I'm only ready to seek personal advantage. I always want something. So please, try to get a mental idea, which cannot be exact because all this is something that transcends the mind. But try to get in your way as much as possible of a mental idea of a strength that makes you something less. Makes you neither more physically strong, nor more intelligent, nor more aware. Because so many people today have the idea, I must become more aware, and there is always a personal interest in this, so I will sleep well. So others will see me as a master, and also beautiful ideas like, I will help the world. But it's not like that. The moment I think that way, I'm reinforcing the suffering in the world. A strength that makes me something less. My goodness. I think if I get stronger in doing something, then I get stronger in that thing. Such as if I become better at math, I am somehow more at math. The word itself says it. What shall I sense about a force? If not the following, the more a force is present, the less my person is.
Star Wars, che è una serie, una film, tantissime cose.
Let's take Star Wars as an example. The filmmaker took this idea from Advaita Vedanta and used terms that have little to do with science fiction but more to do with an era when the planet was inhabited by highly evolved people.
Aspetta, metti via quella. Questo è un linguaggio di Star Wars. Guardate l'immagine. Lo scorrere della vera forza in noi, che non è nostra.
This is Star Wars language. The flow of the true force within us, which is not our own, is what we'll see happening more and more often in the new consciousness. It is the force to which Light on the Path alludes. It is not for everyone, but it will increasingly be for more and more people. And probably today, these words that we are ruminating together as the Desert Fathers, the early Christians said, that we are meditating on and internalizing together, if you let me, more understood than they would have been 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and this is already a sign that they will always be for more and more people. For more and more people, there will always be something less. Jack also found another picture. A very young Pidgey with his martial arts master. My master Fabio used to say that the practice of the true martial art was about leaving this rough and basic force and joining a more refined force, which doesn't make us stronger and stronger. I think I practice so I get stronger and stronger. He said it's not like that. This is if you're in primary school, but real martial arts, masters, monks, elevated practitioners have never taught that the more you practice, the stronger you become. But the more you practice, the more you vanish. A part of me doesn't like this very much. Since I have practiced for many years, look how good I am, look how fast I am, look how smooth I am, I win a fight, I beat you in this, or I have more students in my martial school. All these more and more and more, I'm more famous, I win a cup, I get rich, whatever you want. It's alright, but please, see it. And when I used to say these things many years ago, a few people understood them. Unbelievably, a few people even among those who had been practicing martial arts with us for years. Today I see a miraculous thing, which my master had already told me, by the way, a long time ago. More people are now ready to see a higher strength, which is something that happens to you, but does not make you stronger. It makes you less. The ego says, thanks is not for me. This is what the ego says.
Quindi, se volete vederlo senza insistere,
if you want to see it, these are the things that keep us stuck in the big magnet and that prevent us ascend to the divine, because we always want more and more awareness, more peace and more silence when we meditate. Always wanting more, paradoxically, makes us something less. And all the great masters, even Hermes Trismegistus, said this in different ways. We have one more thing about this that we want to show you. Beautiful. Yeah, let's watch it. I believe it will be very helpful.
Questo è un vecchio cartone che ogni tanto usiamo in vari pezzi.
This is an old cartoon called The Croods. Tonko, we took a big risk. I was careful, we were safe. We have to speed up. Do you know any other stride except... dawdling? Tell me something. How did the tiger fly? I don't talk when I'm inside the trunk. You know I'm like that. Leave it to me. Hey Tonko, you have a spider on your face. He ran away. Don't step on those strange sharp stones. You see these stones? Don't step on these stones. Move over, you sissies. See? Nobody listens to me. You can't walk on those stones. Please notice that the more evolved guy, who has some sort of rudimentary shoes, looks at the uncouth ones, almost thinking, but these are really bad, huh? Well, light beings look at us in the same way, but more lovingly and compassionately.
Come questi tutti basati sulla forza fisica appaiono agli occhi di chi è un po' più evoluto.
In the eyes of those who are a little more evolved, more intelligent, having a seemingly trivial intelligence, as they just put on shoes, put something between their feet and the stones, the characters, all based on physical strength, appear the same way as we do in the eyes of very high beings that are sometimes disembodied but still among us, or are embodied just for the short periods of time. They look at us with tenderness, with love, like a mother looks at a child who can't walk yet. She doesn't tell him, "Idiot, you don't know how to walk." Does she? See how bad you are.
Ecco, io sono convinto che tu, da qualche parte...
Now I am convinced, because this is a feeling, but an elevated feeling. Feelings must be transcended, not denied. That you have already experienced this feeling, probably towards your child or someone else's child, or an animal, perhaps a dog, a cat, a horse, I don't know. This is the feeling that makes you think that this creature in front of you has difficulties that makes you laugh. So this feeling is an elevated feeling that puts you in service. In fact, the moment you really feel this feeling, your heart opens up and you spontaneously are in service without being recognized or wanting anything in return. That is, without trying to become more something.
Tutti gli esseri che sono andati molto oltre.
All beings who have gone much further have seen these dynamics and have lovingly let them go. Stop trying to be something more in something, even more aware, more loving, more compassionate, all things that in reality makes you feel, that's not correct, but still more better, more beautiful, more brilliant, which is somehow what Dante says about what made Lucifer fall. He was so brilliant, the most brilliant of all, that he fell down on his own. Look how brilliant I am compared to the others. A very powerful thing. So, dear friends, we must learn to see this side of ourselves. Probably many of you already see it, but I simply invite you to see it even better. We have another scene. Thank you, Legolas. Goodbye to our hope of survival, and to our trunk. I will help you, but we will have to change a few things right away. The trunk tour is over. Come on, drop it. Now, push it away. Father. Damn. Okay, Mr. Genius. What do we do now? Be good, little fishes. Okay, you can look. Where are my feet? Always there. You are heavy, really. Thank you. If we see all this playfully, it's wonderful. If we don't see it playfully, sooner or later we will have to see it in the midst of so much suffering. Notice this handsome boy, he just puts himself at service. First he feels smarter and sees others as inferior, but then it puts itself at service in its own way. And with a cartoon, however trivial it might seem, it will be able to make some very important inner clicks. So, in this first part, when Light on the Path says, the strong, the one who is strong, it evokes a sense of strength that almost everyone does not know yet. In fact, I unconsciously always have an idea of a strength that makes me something more, not something less. I repeat, the great beloved Father Ballister often evoked this oriental image of a salt doll, which the more it tries to go deeper into the sea, the more it melts in the sea. And he said, when descending into deep silence, a true meditator, who is not the one who practices many techniques, dear friends, but the one who is blessed by the grace of God's silence, is less and less, not something more. Not brighter, not cooler. Even if there was more light, it's not your stuff. It reflects on you, but it's not your stuff. As the light of the moon does not shine its own light. And he used this wonderful image that touched and still touches my heart. The more you go down into the deep silence of meditation, the more you are less and less. And this word game, the more you are less and less, conveyed something to me that I can't give you back, but which I hope will reach you, because paradoxically that less and less means being stronger. But in a sense that the global consciousness of most people today hardly realizes or does not realize at all. But I think that many of us sense the true greatness here. You have probably touched it. You have probably already realized these things, more or less. The aim here is simply to help you see them better, because that simple seeing them enhances them. You don't have to grow them by putting them in the greenhouse, pumping them up or giving them some chemical fertilizer. They are grown by your seeing them, by that part of you that says, I sense this is the way it really is. I don't have a mathematical proof, there isn't a theorem, I haven't understood a concept, and yet I sense this is the way it really is. You can recognize this in yourself, being less and not being something more, free from the world, Trying to be more and more in your own eyes or the other's eyes makes you more and more bound and attached to the world. To use the Buddha's style, being lost in samsara and suffering. Are you there? Please, calmly stand up and put yourself with a person who you don't know. Thanks. Do you have it, Jack? So now, I can deliberately make these words vibrate in us. Blessed are the last, for they will be the first. We have translated into, to be more, you must be less. But it is not the same thing. What is the difference between saying, blessed are the last, for they will be the first, and to be first, you must be last? What is the difference between the two? In the former, we speak of bliss as a result of surrendering. In the latter, we speak of a trick strategy. And we, dear friends, I say it with love because I go around, I meet lots of people. We are masters of spiritual strategy. I always meet people who transform the words of such an elevated master. He wasn't wrong, of course, you are wrong. And you transform his words into spiritual strategy. Just a while ago, I heard someone saying, Jesus says that to be first, you must be last. But if you are intelligent, and I believe you are, there is no PG who wants to convince you. You must see that Jesus does not say to be first, you must be last, but says, blessed are the last, for they will be the first. In bliss, in one of the wonderful blisses among the highest words ever spoken on this planet, Jesus speaks of a kind of unawareness. That is, you don't become the last to get something. You don't become last to be more of something. So when someone tells you, attention, Jesus taught that, this person is almost never teaching it well, not because he's bad, rather because he's still in the big magnet. Okay, so the words, blessed are the last, for they will be the first, do not mean to be first you must be last, because it always implies your interest in wanting to excel, which is still a form of spiritual ego. But then, these words, which are more than words, what do they let vibrate in you? When I was very young, I had two great masters, who are actually one master who has various faces. This can actually apply to many of us. If you have ever had a true master, you will find that you see him everywhere, and you can never tell which and who he is, as if that master appeared in various faces, in various places, even in various lives. My master had me go into the woods with the Buddha's Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita, the Gospel, and told me to read very small parts and then to walk in silence, to sit under a tree closing my eyes and being silent. I always asked, why? Why? Yes, but because that is, yes, but what do I get out of it? And I admit it, right? He always said, he always laughed, he always told me with love, like a father to a son, just do it. And to bring in these words, blessed are the last, for they will be the first, words that we all know, we have known them, but not discovered in us. They are among the most powerful words, truly designating the new consciousness. Blessed are the last, blessed are those who are fewer and fewer, because they will be the first. But where? In the world? Because so many great people do not appear among the first in the world. I often say, probably if we saw Saint Francis here, he wouldn't seem like a first, he would seem like one of the last. Not even beautiful, not even with such a shining aura, if you don't have the true ability to see deeply. If you don't have it in you, you can't see it in others. He would probably look like a person who is no big deal. If you saw Jesus' students, they would probably appear to you as simple people, not someone who is first in something, rather someone who is last in the world, is among the last, no one phenomenal, nothing particularly shining to the eyes of the ego. Instead, the ego sees the splendor in what? In the plus, in being something, in being a leader in something, in being someone who has won something, someone who has succeeded in something. And it is paradoxical, because life could also give you all this. The note of these words, blessed are the last, for they will be the first, have no formal strategy. It's not about to be more, you have to be less. Please, do you see the difference? Simply see it, and then I ask you, can you let these words vibrate inside you? And we will do it in a while with a simple meditation. What do I really tell you? Being last for you really means going around. In Rome they say with patches. Well, they really say worse, you know. It means going around grim, or that you can't have a nice thing. It means you must have, I don't know, you must live in a shack. What does it really mean to you? To be last. Does it mean you must be miserable? You have to find out for yourself. In fact, the person speaking cannot explain it, because it is not a concept of the mind, but it is a reality, a state of consciousness. What does it mean for you to be last? And blessed are the last, and this teaching is so powerful that for him it could be a different thing than for her. But for her it works in one way, and for him in another. That is, I say it in another way, life asks her to be last in a different way, it asks him. So, I could be last, even if in the eyes of others I appear who knows what. Or I could be nothing special, even when in the eyes of others I seem like the last of the last.